Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Keto Edge Summit, where we are dispelling the myths, helping you overcome the hurdles, and empowering you to improve your brain and your body and get an edge in life through the ketogenic lifestyle. I'm your host, Dr. David Jockers, and I've got a great and inspiring guest today. This is Drew Manning, and he's going to talk about his journey and how he went from being extraordinarily fit to fat, basically, gained 70 pounds, and then back to being extraordinarily fit and what he learned through that journey. And so, Drew, super excited to have you on here. And just really excited. And Drew Manning is the New York Times best-selling author of the book, Fit to Fat to Fit, and is best known for his fittofattofit.com experiment that went viral online. He's been featured on shows like Dr. Oz, Good Morning America, The View, and many more. His experiment has since become a hit TV show called Fit to Fat to Fit, which aired on A&E and Lifetime. Drew is also a very successful podcast, which is great. I've listened to many of his episodes. Really great podcast called Fit to Fat to Fit. And it's the Fit to Fat to Fit experience, I should say, and has recently reached over 1 million downloads, which is awesome. Since his self-experiment went viral, Drew has helped thousands of people learn to live a healthy lifestyle and completely transform their lives. And so, Drew, really an honor and a privilege to have you on. I know you're going to provide so much value for the listeners today.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. It's my pleasure.
Yeah, definitely. And so tell us your journey and really how you got involved in natural health to begin with.
Yeah, so I grew up, my entire life in shape, right? I had 11 brothers and sisters. We all played sports. Football and wrestling is what I grew up playing. And so for me, I never once struggled with being overweight or cravings and things like that. And, I was one of those genetically blessed people to naturally have a six pack, right? And then, in 2009, I became a personal trainer just because I knew fitness was something that I was passionate about. And I always enjoyed working out and staying in shape. And in 2011, I had this crazy idea because I was training clients and I could obviously tell there's a disconnect between them and me. I couldn't understand why it was so hard for them just to do what I told them to. I gave them meal plans. I gave them workouts. I'm like, look, it's really easy. I do it and it's easy for me. Why isn't it easy for you? And they would tell me, Drew, you don't understand because for you, it's always been easy. And for me, it's hard. I'm like, well, that's right. I don't really understand why it's hard. It seems very simple. So anyways, I was thinking of ideas, and the idea of getting fat on purpose made sense in my mind. It felt like something I was being called to do. And it was like talking to friends and family, like, hey, you guys, I think I'm actually going to do this. And like, no, don't do it. You're crazy. But that would be awesome if you did. And so I kind of just ran with it. I had no marketing strategy, no media connections. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do this to see if it will give me a better understanding. That was my hope, at least. But then also I wanted to inspire people in a different sort of way because we all have seen Biggest Loser. We all know it's possible for someone to transform from morbidly obese to skinny and fit. We've seen that over and over again. But maybe this model that was backwards was crazy enough to get people's attention, but also motivating enough to help them to embrace a healthier lifestyle change. So that's kind of where it all began.
And so what was that journey like? So basically, and what did you exactly do? Obviously, I know your story where you gained 70 pounds. Mm-hmm. So what was that journey like?
Yeah. So basically the concept was 6 months. I couldn't exercise, right? And I could eat whatever I wanted to. So it sounds kind of like freedom at first for a lot of people. And it was fun. Like it really was fun at first to let myself go to the grocery store, skip the produce section, go down the cereal aisle. Why in the world do we have hundreds of different flavors of cereal? Like I have no idea, but it was fun for about a month. And then it got really quickly. My health went downhill really quickly. It was really hard to breathe walking up the stairs, bending over and tying my shoes or clipping my toenails. I had to hold my breath. I started snoring like a couple months in, which affected my sleep, which affected my mood, which affected, my personality because it affected my hormones. And very quickly, I'm like, this is way harder than I thought it was going to be. And so basically, for 6 months, I lived that unhealthy lifestyle, which I've never experienced before. And then the next 6 months, I had to put my money where my mouth was and walk the walk and show people this is how you lose the weight. So that was the idea in a nutshell.
Yeah. And what did you learn just about yourself as you went through that journey? Particularly, let's talk about the first 6 months. That first half, what did you learn about yourself? And then we'll come back to the second half.
Yeah, the biggest lesson for me, honestly, was as I was gaining weight, you know, the biggest lesson I learned was how much of transformation is mental and emotional.
Yeah.
Physically, I knew I was going to get the man boobs and a big gut and a big
Mhm.
butt, right? That's what happens when you
Yeah.
gain a lot of fat. What I wasn't prepared for was how this journey was going to affect me mentally and emotionally. So
Mm.
when you grow up your entire life in shape, part of your
Yeah.
identity is based on what your body looks like. And once my six pack was gone, my muscles were gone, I didn't know who I was. I freaked out. I wanted to go up to complete strangers and say, hey, I'm not really overweight. Here's my before picture. Go to this website. It's just an experiment. This isn't really me. I wanted to tell people that so bad. But I had to realize that, there's so much more to us than what our bodies look like. And no one else really cared. No one was mean to me or picked on me. But inside my mind, the mental and emotional side of
Mhm.
this was where the greatest lessons were learned. And it clicked for me. This is what my clients were telling me that I couldn't relate to them about. I'm like, it's so easy. You just, eat less, you work out. It's not that hard. Until I realized how powerful the emotional connection to food really is. Even though I did it for 6 months, I could definitely tell how powerful that emotional connection to food can be for some people.
Yeah, so true. Absolutely. I'm like you. I've grown up always athletic. My mom's a naturopath, so I was always into natural health and, just taking care of my body. And I did struggle with my share of health issues, but, just being able to relate with others, especially when, like, as for me, I'm a disciplined kind of driver type. It's like I set a goal, I go after it. And so it can be tough to relate as, a doctor or a personal trainer with, with a lot of our clients, and there's that disengagement there. So I think that was pretty incredible to go through that. And were you still working as a personal trainer during that stage?
Yeah, that's a good question. I actually stopped taking clients. I had a full-time job in the medical field, which paid the bills. Because I knew, and it's kind of a funny reason, but I was obsessed with working out. And I knew if I was in the gym training clients, I would have been tempted to work out. And I knew I couldn't be in the gym. And so I stopped training clients actually during my Fit to Fat journey. But it's interesting to say that, it is hard to relate to people, whether you're a doctor or personal trainer, because you only have your experiences and they have their experiences. And you think, well, it seems so easy. You just stop eating the junk food. What's wrong with you? Until you've kind of walked in their shoes. But this doesn't mean that every single person that's never been overweight needs to do what I did. But there's definitely some lessons that can be learned from this journey that I went on. Because for me, I have no regrets. I came out of it more empathetic, more respect, and I think people just want to be more understood, in this world, we need more empathy, in my opinion.
I agree. I think that's something, as anytime you're coaching somebody in anything, just having a high degree of empathy and compassion. I know as a doctor, that's something that I've really had to work on, and it hasn't necessarily been easy. It's been a struggle. I mean, there were times where I would just get frustrated with different clients, and I realized, it was really more about me being frustrated. Because I took an identity as, okay, this person's not getting well. It reflects back on me that I'm a failure. And I would get frustrated because of that. And really, all those people wanted was compassion. They wanted somebody to understand them, respect them, and kind of walk the journey at their pace. And I didn't really realize that as a doctor. I'm sure you experienced that too.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I know you've used a ketogenic lifestyle in general, not only for yourself, but also with others. And tell us how you use it, how you incorporate that to help people lose the weight.
Yeah. So first of all, I want to make it clear that I did not use keto to get back to fit. Right. That was about 6 years ago, and keto wasn't really mainstream back then.
Right.
So I didn't use that method. I wish I knew more about it back then, to be honest with you, because people have said, hey, you should do this again, but with keto, I'm like, I don't think I can do it again, to be honest with you. But it would be an experiment. Maybe I would have lost the weight faster, or maybe it would have just had some different results. But anyways, I did not use keto, but I about 3 years ago became a huge fan of the ketogenic diet, listening to the science behind it. Once I understood that there was real legit science behind the ketogenic diet, that's what made it intriguing to me to experiment with. Because before then, I didn't understand any of the science that was out there about it. It just kind of sounded like another diet to me. Like, oh yeah, another diet, another way to lose fat. But once I heard Dr. Dominic D'Agostino on Tim Ferriss' podcast, it blew me away. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I had no idea they were using this for, traumatic brain injury and brain toxicity and all these other therapeutic applications. It really intrigued me to want to experiment with it. So I experimented with it, became a huge fan of it, got connected with Dr. Dom, picked his brain for a while, if you will. And then from there, I had the opportunity to go on the Dr. Oz show talking about the keto diet. And ever since then, the keto diet has just exploded in popularity, right?
Oh, yeah.
Become mainstream. It's so popular nowadays, right? But like I said before, there's so many other therapeutic applications. For me, the biggest thing I noticed was, my body composition didn't really change. I was already lean to begin with. My performance in the gym was about the same. It didn't, go up or down for the most part. But the biggest thing that I noticed was the improvement in cognitive function and mental clarity was like night and day. So for me, I look at keto for me as nutrition for my brain.
Right.
Rather than a weight loss or fat loss method.
Yeah, it's high performance. Those ketones they have such a powerful effect on brain function, reducing what we know, something called the neuroinflammasome, just reducing inflammation in the brain. Just think so much sharper and clearer. So high performers, people that, really your busiest days, your busiest, most stressful days, keto is absolutely amazing. Helps you get so much more done. So let's go back actually to your fit to fit journey. And so we talked about what you learned the first 6 months as you were gaining the weight and coming off a healthy lifestyle. Now, as you transitioned back, how did you do that? Did you all of a sudden, go on, obviously I know you changed your diet. Did you start exercising regularly? Go through the details as far as how you made the lifestyle changes.
Yeah, that's a good question. So, I did have to do a cold turkey approach to it because I had a timeline, right, of where I gained 76 pounds, which by the way was more than I expected to gain. I thought I was going to gain 50 or 60. So I kind of overachieved in the area, but so I had to turn the tables pretty quickly, to be honest with you. But what I did was the first 30 days I skipped exercise. I wanted to show people how powerful nutrition is in actually seeing results and getting healthy again. So I skipped exercise for the first 30 days, just changed my diet, went from about 5,000 calories of the SAD diet, standard American processed food, things like white bread and white pasta and sugary cereals and juices and sodas. And I went to 2,000 calories of real whole food. And I did, the typical 5 to 6 meals spread throughout the day, kind of more of like a paleo-ish approach. Yeah. Not true paleo, but along those lines, real whole food is what I focused on.
Right.
And within the first 30 days, I lost 19 pounds. All my blood work went back to normal levels. My testosterone more than doubled in those first 30 days without any exercise. And so it was a real testament to me and my audience to just how powerful nutrition is when it comes to seeing results. Now, one of the biggest lessons I learned on the way back to fit was, like I mentioned before, that emotional connection to food really hit me when I had to go cold turkey, right? So here I was, a personal trainer, an advocate for health, eating healthy food, spinach, kale, broccoli, like all the good stuff. And I felt horrible. I felt terrible for the first 2 weeks. My body was going through these withdrawal symptoms of missing that food. And I never experienced that before, but it clicked for me. This is kind of what my clients have been telling me when they told me they kept messing up and they couldn't follow the meal plans because they had cravings and they kept giving in. And before I used to think it was so easy. And now here I was only having done this for 6 months and my body was fighting back, right? Your body wants the high of those delicious foods that are convenient, they're affordable, and I'll be honest, they taste really good. I mean, Cinnamon Toast Crunch is one of the tastiest things in the world. I could eat that all day, every day. But it really opened up my eyes to just what my clients were telling me and how much of transformation is emotional and not just, hey, stop doing it, right? So anyways, I did get back to fit, to make a long story short, and by no means was it easy. It was way harder than I thought it would be. It was a very humbling process, and honestly, I'm glad I went through it because it gave me a totally different perspective. It made me more relatable to my audience, and I could better relate to my audience as well. And so that's why I have no regrets, and I learned a lot of valuable lessons.
Yeah, absolutely. That's powerful. And, we know that sugar is as addictive as any drug out there. In fact, it's kind of the accepted drug, right? It's not taboo in our society. Whereas, if you drink too much alcohol, people just kind of know, hey, that's not good. Smoking isn't good. doing hardcore drugs isn't good, but sugar is accepted. Hey, we can have sugar. We can have it at holidays. We can enjoy it. And people really aren't frowned upon for gluttony with it. And we know it stimulates the same pathways. We get this massive dopamine release. And I think there's a lot of benefit to that. I mean, it makes us feel good. That's a great thing. But when we continue to stimulate that pathway, it can be so hard to break free.
Yeah.
And so when you're working with clients, how do you help them break free from sugar addictions?
Yeah. I wish there was like a one size fits all approach to this and like a black and white approach, but honestly, it's so individual. And so that's why instead of focusing on the physical side, right, like giving them different meal plans and changing up their macros and giving them all the knowledge, it's not so much a lack of knowledge, in my opinion. The knowledge helps out, but if you can help them overcome their mental and emotional challenges and realize why this is a drug for them, then you can start to help them really overcome those emotional challenges. And that's how you make it a lifestyle change. So it's not about giving someone the best meal plans or the best diet, the best workout. None of that matters, because to that person, that doesn't really, like, they don't really care about that. Like if they can learn how to, overcome the cravings when they're by themselves or overcome those old habits. Sometimes it stems from trauma as a child. How are you going to be able to combat that? Like that's going to take years of recovery. And I'm not equipped as a, licensed therapist to do that. So it just comes down to that person realizing that it's helping them overcome their mental and emotional challenges. So it's very individual. There's no one size fits all approach. So that's kind of, maybe not the answer everybody wanted to hear, but it's the truth, right?
Well, I think you hit it on the head there. Like I found with sugar, with sugar cravings in general, it's three big things. And for a lot of people, it's this strong emotional issue that has underlying issues like some sort of childhood trauma or something along those lines that they don't even know. And what you just talked about is, hey, helping people have awareness of that. Yeah. Right. Because awareness is really the first step. If we have awareness of it, now we can sort of say, hey, why am I going for these cupcakes or binge eating, or why am I constantly craving sugar? Maybe it's because I'm feeling emotionally low because of I've never learned to, have fulfillment and pleasure without it. And so it's just, having that awareness is huge. Two other things I find is just, people not necessarily understanding nutrition and having kind of reactive hypoglycemia, which will then kind of set off a whole cascade of stress responses in their body and cause inflammation and lead to cravings. And then just in general, high stress, right? When we're in a stressful season, our body's going to be, and we haven't learned to balance our blood sugar, we're just going to be craving more and more sugar. And so usually it's like a combination of all three, but if the dominant one is that emotional eating pattern, that one is tougher to break, right? And it definitely takes that awareness. So I'm glad that you brought that up. And so what are some steps that you'll work with clients as you're trying to transition them? Let's say we've kind of taken some steps. You've helped them with the emotional awareness and sugar cravings. Now, how do you start to take them into more of a ketogenic lifestyle?
Yeah, that's a great question. Really quick, something that works for almost everybody is making sure that they stay accountable to someone else and have a support system, right? So I don't care who you are. If you're trying to do this by yourself without any kind of support or help from friends, family, or an online community, it's going to be almost impossible, right? Because at some point your willpower, or you're going to have a stressful day where you're just going to be like, you know what, screw it. No one will know. So support system and accountability are key to maintaining a healthy lifestyle. When it comes to keto, there's a couple of things that I teach people to transition, right? One is the number one thing is to be patient with themselves, because people have been running off glucose almost, their whole life, every single day, right? And then now you're trying to tell your body, okay, no more glucose. And now you're going to try to learn how to run off ketones. And people want that euphoric energy that people talk about on keto right away. But people need to understand that it takes time. Sometimes for some people, a few months or longer to get, keto adapted to where they feel optimal. So I tell people, one, be patient with yourself, with your body as you transition from glucose to ketones as an energy source. The second thing is to make sure to stay hydrated. So drink more water than normal, and then make sure that your electrolytes are balanced. So making sure you're getting in enough sodium, potassium, magnesium, because otherwise you're going to experience the keto flu. And that's where a lot of people kind of give up. They're like, oh yeah, I tried keto for a few days and I felt awful, and they're like, keto's not for me. It's like, if you can kind of teach people and educate them on the keto flu and how to overcome that and realize that your body's transitioning and at some point your body's going to start to become adapted to ketones as an energy source, then that's where like the magic happens and people feel euphoric and those awesome things that people have been talking about. So patience, water, electrolytes are the top three things I teach people.
Yeah, that's so important. And I always try to explain to people that keto is an amazing state, but it's kind of like getting in good shape just through exercise. It's like the first time, if you're not fat adapted at all, or if you haven't exercised, like I'm sure with the first time you got in the gym during your Fit to Fat to Fit journey, you're probably pretty sore for probably a few days afterwards, right? And if you judged your experience off of that one workout or maybe the first week of workouts, you would have thought, I feel awful when I do this. This must not be good.
Yeah.
We just have enough knowledge with exercise to know that it's very good. And so you just have to kind of go through that painful adaptation process. Kind of the same thing with keto. And like you said, for some people, and that can be tricky for people because they'll see their friend and all of a sudden a week in, they're getting results and doing well, whereas they're 4 weeks in and they're struggling.
Yeah.
And so how do you keep them encouraged and motivated?
I think that's where the support group comes in, because basically, the way I coach people is I have a private Facebook group that people are members of. And it's really important for them to hear from other people that went through the same thing, rather than just me as the coach saying, oh, just be patient. You'll have people come on and say, hey, I know what you're experiencing. It took me, 5 weeks, 6 weeks. These are some things that I tweaked. Maybe you're eating, too much dairy, too much nuts, or check your carbohydrates. There's all these things that people can come in and give support. And that's where people feel like they can relate to those other people, and that gives them hope. So that's, in my opinion, something that's vital.
Yeah, absolutely. And you do a lot with your online programs. You've got a great online community. And so you've got your Fit to Fat Fit, right? That program. You've also got a keto program. And so what are you seeing as far as what's going on in those groups? And can you just kind of go through the differences between them as well?
Yeah. So my Fit to Fat to Fit program is basically the same program I use to lose the 75 pounds in 6 months, which is kind of that 5-6 meals per day, whole food approach, which still works, right? If you don't want to do keto, that's totally fine. This eating whole foods, I think we all can agree on, is a great lifestyle to live. And so that's like a 6-month transformation program with 6 months of detailed meal plans and recipes and grocery lists, and the same workout program I used. But people that want to do keto, I have them actually lumped into the same group. So you have people doing this 6-month program, and then people doing my 60-day keto program. And the keto program is obviously more popular because people are gravitating towards that nowadays. So it's really cool to see people give support, ask for support. They're there to lift other people up. They're there to get lifted up some days, and just to provide inspiration and motivation. And it's really powerful to see strangers from across the world come together in one common purpose and have the same goal. And I think honestly, that's kind of like what was it, Weight Watchers or Jenny Craig that had those meetings in person. I think social media, you're able to take it to a whole nother level, all across the world, where people don't have to meet in person, but they can come meet in these social media groups that are private, and everyone's on the same page. And so for me, I think it's really powerful.
Yeah, super powerful.
Yeah.
And so, if for the listeners out there, throughout this whole journey, you came in as a personal trainer, great shape, obviously went through your Fit to Fat to Fit journey. Now, years later, you've been on all the different media, Dr. Oz, 2 New York Times best-selling books. You've got these online programs with thousands of people in them. So you've got all this experience. What, if you could sum it up in like 3 things, what are the 3 biggest things you've learned through all of that?
So the first thing would be that transformation, is mental and emotional. It's so much more than just the physical. The physical is a small piece of the puzzle, but it's not the entire puzzle, right? So if people can understand that and realize that, we're obsessed with this diet mentality here in America, right? What's the quickest way to lose the most amount of weight with the least amount of effort, right? And the shortest amount of time. That's our obsession. But if we can realize that it requires a lifestyle change, a true lifestyle change, that's going to help us face our mental and emotional challenges, rather than saying, hey, what's the next meal plan? So that would be the number one thing. And then also being aware, like you mentioned, of your emotional connection to food, right? And what triggers that, and where does it come from? And, I posted a cool meme the other day. It says, don't just slay your dragons, find out what they've been feeding on. Right. And so find out what is feeding these demons or these dragons that you've been trying to slay. And if you can find out and be aware of what they're feeding on, then you can, kill off its source, right? So that's kind of what the goal is no matter whether it's a physical goal of losing weight. I think that goes for any kind of goal, business-wise, financial, spiritual goals. Find out what your demons have been feeding on. And so, I
mean, that's so good too. And I always tell people with the health journey, you really got to think about it almost like getting a master's degree or an advanced college degree in your own health.
Yeah.
It's like if you were to go to school and get a degree, you're going to spend a lot of time, money, and energy on getting that. And ultimately, the health journey you should think of it the same way. And so you should think of it as a journey, and your whole goal is to learn as much as you can about yourself. Yeah. Because then you may not get, the letters behind your name or the diploma, but you've actually developed a skill set that you can bring with you for the rest of your life that will keep you healthy, keep you at your highest energy, and allow you to perform at a really high level in every area of your life, whether you're a mother, father, business person, employee, whatever your role is, you're going to be able to obviously function at your peak potential if you know how to take care of your health, if you've learned how to master your physiology and your mental emotional state, like you're talking about. Yeah. And so if we look at it like that, then it says, okay, I don't need to get the quick results. I'm in this for the long game. And on top of that, we'll also be able to help other people around us because now we've got this knowledge, especially, we're plugged into community groups or whatever groups we're in. Now we're able to dispense that information and pay it forward. Yeah. And so totally agree with what you're talking about right there. And, just kind of piggybacking on what you said, information only gets us so far, but inspiration, we need that. We need both. Yeah. Right. So we can't just have the information. We got to be inspired to put it into action, or else it just sit there, and you and I both know there's plenty of people in the health field that are pretty knowledgeable people, right? But just haven't put it into action and don't have the results because of it.
Oh, yeah.
So true. And so, Drew, where do people find out more about you, and where can they get your books as well and listen to your podcast?
Yeah, so my brand is really easy to follow. It's fit, number 2, fat, number 2, fit. And that's my website, my book, my podcast, all my social media handles as well. And then if you want my keto program, it's keto.fittofattofit.com. It's a 60-day, ebook that's very basic, very easy to get started with. But yeah, it's really easy to find me on social media, just Fit to Fat to Fit.
And where is your show? What channel is it on?
Season 2 is going to be on Lifetime. Season 1 is on demand on A&E. Season 2 is on demand on Lifetime, which is owned by A&E. So
awesome. Yeah. And tell us a little bit more about the show, what you do on the show.
Yeah. So instead of me doing this Fit to Fat to Fit journey, I coach other trainers through this process. So I'm the creator of the show. It's based on my Fit to Fat to Fit journey and what I went through, in hopes to have these other trainers out there gain more empathy, respect, and a better understanding. Because if you look at the fitness industry, there's a big disconnect between these skinny, fit people who are trainers, mostly people who are overweight, and they can't really relate to each other. And so my hope is to bridge that gap through this TV show, Fit to Fat to Fit, where these trainers kind of get to walk in their client's shoes for a minute, like a small minute, to kind of see what it's like. Not exactly, but to gain a better understanding. So 4 months, these trainers have to let themselves go. And then 4 months, they team up with their client, and together as a team, they lose the weight together back to fit.
Wow. That's powerful. What a great idea for a show. So I'll definitely have to check that out on Lifetime. Drew, thanks so much for coming on the Keto Edge Summit. You've provided so much value and inspiration, just as a personal trainer and somebody that looks like you. I'm sure you were, and you've been judged as, hey, this guy looks great, probably gets, all the girls, right? He's got everything going for him. And you really humbled yourself, went through this process, gained that weight, increase your level of empathy and compassion that you can have for your clients. And now you've taken it really global with your TV shows and doing the great work you're doing online. So just want to really acknowledge you for doing a great work. And ultimately with this show, it sounds like you're really transforming the fitness field.
Yeah. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. It's my pleasure being on. So keep up the good work.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. And so if you, the listener, have gotten value out of this interview and you want to go deeper into this ketogenic lifestyle, then I want to encourage you to consider owning the entire Keto Edge Summit for yourself. That way you get access to all the interviews for a lifetime, the transcripts, all the bonuses that we have, so you can really put this into action and get the sustainable success and sustainable results that we've been talking about. So if you consider that, we would truly be honored and blessed. And we'll see you on a future interview. God bless you guys.